we're back. Hi guys, it's really good to be back filming videos. I'm really sorry about the delay. A lot has been going on. We were up in Edinburgh for New Year's, and from that trip we caught and we came back with that, and then after I recovered from that I was ill with other health issues, and in between all of that we are also moving house, so it's been a really crazy time. I'll go into details about it on our vlogs on our membership page because I don't want to bore you guys with that. So yeah, it's been a lot of packing boxes and just an all-round crazy time in our lives, to be honest with you, so please bear with me on that one. My plan is once we're moved and settled into the new house, I can then start making videos like crazy again. But yeah, in the meantime, why don't you leave me what kind of videos you want to see and I can write it down on my ideas list. But today I wanted to look at some home decor and interior design questions you sent in to me, and hopefully I can make things a bit clearer for you guys. Because we get so many questions every day on the channel, so I thought I'd just compile them all into one video for you and answer them one by one. And the first question is, I actually wanted to ask, how do you put forth your vision for a space and yet also incorporate what the clients would want? Well, that's actually really easy for me to answer because I design in a way that's all about what the client would want. I'm not really a designer that puts forward what I would want in the space because, of course, I design things in a way that I think would look beautiful and cohesive. But for example, sometimes I see designers on YouTube or just anywhere really in real life, they put forward a very clear vision of their style. They have a very clear personal design style, and that's not really what I do as an interior designer or interior architect. I put forward what the client wants and then I embellish on that. I hope that makes sense. I think sometimes people go to certain designers for their own personal design style, which is absolutely fine, but just make sure that you know that your home will also look in their style, if that makes sense. But me personally as a designer, I very much focus on a client brief. Also, do you already have an idea of how you would want a space to look, or do you walk into a home, meet the owners and draw inspiration from what they tell you? So yeah, like I said, I listen to what the clients would want. I then draw up a design brief of what I think that they're looking for. Most of the times, more often than not, clients actually make Pinterest boards or they have images that they show me of things that they like, and that gives me an inkling as to what I think I should produce for them. Once I have those initial questions answered from the client, I then go away, do lots of research, gather inspirational images, and come up with a cohesive scheme. But for me, it's really a case of research, images, and also taking into account the architecture of the building and the space. That determines how I would want the space to look, and then we move forward from there. Then how long does it take for you to design a space and get all the materials needed? That's a difficult question because all projects vary in length. On our website, for us, we offer different kind of packages, so it could literally just be like a mood board and a couple of things like that, which won't take very long, but then you can have projects that span months because of the complexity of them. So I don't really know if that answered the question because it really just depends on what the client's looking for. That determines how long it will take. And like most of us, we want to know how much do you charge for designing a room or all the rooms in a home, and does a client have to pay all in full or installment plans where they may pay half and then pay the other half later? I think that's a fantastic question because there's so much confusion around interior design and pricing, and for that reason in our business personally we put a price guide on our website just because oftentimes when we first started out people would ask how much does it cost, and at the time we charged per hour, which is absolutely fine, but once things are then laid out to the client it's not really in their budget or it takes longer than they would expect. So for us, we just like to be a bit clearer now with our clients so that it doesn't confuse anyone. But it also depends. So right now we charge per square meter of a space and we charge per service. So a basic package would be X amount and the premium package would be another cost. I hope that makes sense. However, if we were doing an absolutely massive project for a massive company or something like that, usually that would be paid in installments. And also in terms of when you actually pay, for us, It depends on the size of the project. So if it's a small project, we usually charge at the end of a project, but if it was a large scale project, we would charge in installments just to make it easier for the client. However, that being said, this is my business that I'm talking about right now, and with interior design, the pricing structure is really all over the place, depending on who you go to. For example, we charge per square meter, and the price goes up depending on the package you want. However, a lot of people charge per hour. A lot of people just write down a full fee for the whole project. And like I said, with paying upfront, paying in installments, or paying at the end, it really just depends on who you go to. I'm really sorry if that didn't really answer your question, but I hope I got some things clear for you. And lastly, has there ever been a design style that you felt wouldn't fit the space, yet the client really wanted it? Like, has there ever been a conflict of interest? For me personally, no, it's been okay so far. That was an easy one to answer. And what design style are you not fond of? I really look forward to your Q&A. Okay, so for me, just putting it all out there, personally, maximalist interiors aren't really my kind of thing. For me, I'm not really a big person on patterns. I'm just saying, so maximalist really doesn't go with my kind of style, but I can see why people like it. And another one for me, I don't really know how to describe it, but just garish interiors is what I call them, where there's lots and lots of gold. Yeah, that's just what I think. I would like to ask if you could do an estimate pricing guide for each room per house, as like most fans, I'm on a tight budget. Well, it's really up to you on how much you want to spend on each room. Obviously, I can advise these kind of things, but it all depends on your budget. So, for example, a living room, you can get cheap decor for a really good price, but what I would say is the most expensive rooms in the house are always going to be your bathroom and your kitchen, because those unfortunately are two rooms that you can't really be thrifty with, because you can't really change bathroom fitting prices and costs and kitchen counters and things like that. Of course, you can find cheaper alternatives, for example like an IKEA kitchen or something like that, but it's always going to be more than say something thrifted would be. I really like this question. So, how to mix sofas, accent chairs and ottomans? So my rule is to have at least 2 different styles in the mix. So a sofa like this, an ottoman that's fairly similar to the sofa, and then a different style and colour for the armchair will work just fine. Any tips on downsizing? Yes, so if your space is becoming smaller, my advice is to always store things vertically. Use the wall space from the floor to the ceiling, and also get furniture that has hidden storage like an ottoman bed or an ottoman with storage space. And declutter, which is something that we're very much learning about in this house moving process. This is a really interesting question. I love Indian, Moroccan, African and other ethnic styles. How can I mix these styles to make it look cohesive and yet not overdone? Sure, so I don't know if you've seen Will Smith's house, but that's very much the styles you're talking about right now, and the designer has combined them all in a very cohesive way, I think. So maybe look at that for some inspiration. If you want something more subtle, I would suggest painting your walls white and having tile flooring, and then decorating with collectibles from these actual places. It will really bring the space to life. So this is a question about a design dilemma that one of you are having. What to do for an arched shaped door with windows in need of privacy? I can't figure out how to add curtains in a chic way. Okay, so first off, I think forget the curtains, because I can understand what you're saying. And depending on how much privacy you want, I would say you can get a window decal that's kind of bubbly or tinted, and then that will give you some privacy. However, if you want even more privacy than that, look to using arched window shutters. You get them custom built as well. Dressing table advice. I'm looking for a dressing table, ideally modern and white, with a drawer and with a chair on a budget too. Any suggestions? Now, depending on budget, you can have this one from Wayfair, Or for a really good deal, there's this one from Robert Dias. This is all based in the UK. And just a quick tip for anyone buying anything online, please read the reviews first before you buy furniture, because that gives you a really good indication if it's actually good or not. That's really a simple tip, but honestly, you'll be surprised. How do you hang large art when there is wall moulding on the walls? So you can either go for a really dramatic look and place large art on top, or fit smaller framed art inside the boundaries. It's completely up to you. The next question, the way the person worded it really made me laugh. I have a builder grade square niche wall cut out, 105 by 38 wide. What the heck do I place there? A mirror? That's the way I read it in my head. You're trying to highlight whatever is inside it, right? So I would say oversized art, large vases, or large floral arrangements for a statement. Wall niches are actually really popular these days, with Cycladic styles becoming trendy. I have a question. I would love to decorate my apartment in a Victorian style. I have a grandfather clock. Will this fit in? Absolutely, that is very, very on brand for the style. I believe grandfather clocks were invented in the 1600s, and it really depends on the detailing of your one, but honestly, I don't think it matters that much, as Victorians did indeed have them in their homes. So I think it would fit in seamlessly. And now I have a couple of questions sent to me from Nancy over at the Rambling Rose channel, and if you like my cottagecore video or my witchy cottage one, I think you'll definitely love her channel. She's moving into a new house, so she was asking me, mixing timber colours, how do I beautifully mix and match timber colours? I have found an American poplar bed and an oak French sofa on sale, and I really want them both. I also found a beautiful pine table but plan to paint it. Not sure what colour, but I do have a can of beautiful mauve or dusty rose. Can these all work together? How to mix cool and warm tones of timber and painted furniture for this style? Well, she did actually tell me that she's going for a light academia look, and with that naturally combines different wood textures with one another, usually dark, but that's absolutely fine. I would look to shabby chic interiors for inspo, as they usually combine woods and pastel colours together. Okay, the next question. I love greens and pinks, but with the cooler tones of the house and being by the seaside, I wanted to change it up a bit to include some stormy blues. Any tips on how to make this work without looking too confused? I should also mention that my house has wainscoting, so I plan to paint the lower half a complementing colour to the top white. She did also send across her Pinterest board, which is actually really helpful to me, and it kind of reminded me of Julia Berolsheimer's home in terms of the pattern and in terms of colour palette as well. So maybe that can give you some more inspiration there. I wouldn't worry about it too much, because personally I think light dusty blues, almost grey blues, will work perfectly in a pastel scheme, but definitely avoid dark tones or cobalt blues, anything really bold and punchy, because that will be too overpowering for your scheme. You mentioned stripes and chinoiserie in your recent episode, but I'm really struggling to find the perfect quilt cover for my bedroom makeover episode. Everything I see has a pop of bright colour and doesn't match this muted pastel-y look. Any ideas how to tie this all together? Sure, so I know you're based in Australia, and I'm not really sure what you have and what you don't have there, because quilts like this are really popular here in the UK, so in that way I'm not really sure. So you could maybe order online for international delivery if you really can't find anything, but my advice would be to flip them back to front. So the quilt cover, just look for a plain pastel colour, a block colour that you're going for, and then the pattern can be on the duvet cover and the pillowcases and the cushions as well. And I know exactly what you're trying to say, because sometimes when I see quilt covers as well, even if they're floral ones, sometimes for some reason they put the hue and saturation up to 1000. It just feels too bold. This is a really fun question. So, any tips to make a student flat homier? Yes, loads. If I think back to when I was living in a student flat ages ago, you definitely want to include warm lighting. The main thing with student homes is that they usually just have one pendant light in each room, so you're going to want to switch out bulbs for warm white bulbs, buy a cheap floor lamp like this one from IKEA, and also buy cheap table lamps. Just the atmosphere alone with this warm lighting and more than one light will really add some coziness to your home. And also by adding textures that will make your space even homier, like rugs, cushions, curtains or blankets, because those are usually really lacking in digs. And lastly, houseplants, the secret I think to make any home feel cozy. And obviously for students, choose low maintenance plants like a fern, a snake plant or succulents. Do you have a video of your own home? I think we have similar styles. So basically the answer to that one is no, we don't have any videos of our home. Like I said, we're literally moving house, we're actually moving country as well, so it's kind of crazy. But my plan is eventually, once we're moved in, to do some kind of like home makeovers, room by room. I don't know how quickly they're going to be coming out, but let me know if that's something you guys want to see. What I was thinking would help people is to explain what hue, tint, tone and shade are, or maybe that would just confuse them. I love your soft style, you come across very kind and gentle. Thank you so much for saying that. So hue refers to the purest and brightest form of a colour. It's usually what we would call a colour, like red, blue or yellow, something like that. Tint is created by adding white to a hue, and that results in a lighter, less saturated look. For example, adding white to red makes pink. Tone is created by adding grey to a hue. For example, adding grey to a red equals a kind of maroon colour. And shade is created by adding black to a colour, which often creates a darker version of the original colour. Those are the actual definitions of all these things, but because they're so similar to one another, we oftentimes just say shade, tone, hue for the same thing, and I don't really think it matters, in my opinion. Some people think it does, and it does in terms of what colours you're choosing and how to describe colours, but these days with everything online or anything in the shops, it's all visual, so you don't really have to explain yourself too much, you can just show. I think the next question was on my Victorian style video, and it's, where can you classify the style of living that Oscar Wilde propagated? How did the followers of the aesthetic movement live? I thought that was really interesting because I don't often think about how people lived in certain eras or design styles, if that makes sense. I just usually focus on the design style, so it made me think maybe I should include that in my next videos a bit more. So he was associated with the aesthetic movement in the late 19th century. So it emphasised the beauty and art for art's sake and rejects any kind of idea that art is for a moral or social purpose. Basically, art's just for fun and enjoy it, appreciate it. The movement also emphasised individualism and personal expression. And because he lived in Paris for a while, he was influenced by the bohemian culture there. And he was indeed considered a bohemian due to his unconventional lifestyle and rejection to traditional Victorian norms. Okay, so the next one is, I want to create a craft room, come guest room, and I'm thinking of creating a bed from old Brimness IKEA furniture we have. How do I go about doing that? It must be renter friendly. And she sent me a photo that looks like this. Okay, so Brimness cabinets, I know what you're talking about. Okay, so just for safety, I wouldn't use just the Brimness cabinets as the base of the bed. You can get Kallax, which is a lot stronger because I think it's made from fiberboard, or you can make your own supports for the base. Medium density fiberboard or MDF is always going to be your best friend in any DIY project because it's really, really strong. Of course, make sure that all the base is the same height, and then you can move forward to making the top of the base for the bed. And the way I would do that is, again, using MDF. I don't know if you know, but you can actually go to B&Q, this DIY shop we have in the UK, and they can custom cut certain measurements of MDF for you. I believe that the service is free, at least when I last did it, I think. And they literally cut the size you want. That's the easy bit. The hard bit's taking it home on top of your car. Make sure you check what weight all this base can actually handle, because obviously the bed and a mattress on top is going to be very heavy. And I don't think the Brimness cabinets will be enough to support it. It kind of goes without saying, but just make sure you screw each cabinet to one another so that they stick together in a unit. And you can also buy ankle brackets to make it stronger and more reinforced. However, after saying all of that, I wouldn't do any of this. If it was me, depending on the space you have, I would actually build upwards. So I would buy something like a loft bed, and then underneath that you can put your Brimness cabinets and all that kind of IKEA stuff. You can even use the Brimness cabinets to make custom shelving and things like that, and then underneath can be your craft room area. This way you're maximizing on the space, and I'm not sure if it's mainly a craft room or a guest room, but it works for both then. Because if you just put an elevated bed, it's taking up a lot of room in the space, but this way you're actually using all the space. So again, a loft bed and then a craft room underneath it, if that makes sense. So that would be my solution. So this goes on to interior design studying questions or just business in general. So do you have any time management tips? Once I find some, I'll let you know. For me, it depends really in terms of studying and business. When I was a student, I would say my time management wasn't amazing, just like everyone else really. Just get things done as soon as possible. But in terms of business, I've learned a lot of things that help me, but I've also learned that it depends on you as a person what works. So for example, when we first started the business, I read this thing that Mark Wahlberg gets up at like 4 in the morning and he does a workout and he does all these things. He gets everything done by just waking up really early. And of course, I started to do that like an idiot, basically, because I thought that getting up a lot earlier will get more things done. But then I realized that these people that wake up that early actually go to bed at like 6 p.m. and I'm not about that life. So it's a lot of trial and error. I find, for me anyway, I'm usually glued to my desk. So I tried the Pomodoro technique, which is like a little timer essentially based off of a tomato kitchen timer, in order to give myself breaks to walk or stretch or whatever, so I'm not glued to my computer all day long, because I really am not very good at taking breaks. Another thing I can't live without is to-do lists. So I usually block things like that and tick them off as I go. To be honest, I can't live without one. I also have a written diary, like weekly planner, that I use a lot. I have tried calendar blocking on my phone, but to me that just didn't really work. It got to the point there were too many segments on my phone and it kind of just got confusing. And also it was annoying to have that flash up on my screen all the time. So that didn't work for me either. I just use pen and paper, to-do lists, that kind of thing. And recently as well, I think sometimes I tend to dwell on any task and I just try complete that and then I start the new one once it's complete. But now I'm starting to do the easier tasks first. You know, some people say do the hardest task first to get it out of the way. That works for some people as well. I start with the easier things like responding to emails and things like that, and then I crack on with the harder things. I just feel like that works for me. So how many things do we need to know or learn when we start interior design studies? I'm guessing you mean before you start interior design studies at uni or whatever. Yeah, that's funny because I remember being the same before I'd started university and thinking, oh my gosh, I need to know absolutely everything about interior design before I start university. And they had even given us a book and some other books to read before we had joined, and looking back, that was a bit irrelevant, to be honest with you. It's always good to have the knowledge, but was it compulsory? No, I don't think so. I think all you can do for yourself is do your own research and learning by reading books and things like that. If you want some book recommendations, I have a whole video on that. So the next one is, if I'm not in a place to begin schooling for interior architect work, how would you recommend I begin learning, studying, and practicing how to become good in this space? I'm not sure if you mean you're going to school to do it eventually and you just want to know what you can do now, or you're not going to school for it and that kind of thing. Honestly, again, like I answered with the other question, it's all about research at the end of the day. Lots of books help. Unfortunately, it's not a very well-known industry, I think, so that's why our YouTube, I think, is really good for seeing what people actually do in the job, just learning industry things like that. I personally wouldn't pay for any diplomas or like really short courses on it, because I always say to people that, would you become a doctor in a month? The answer is no. We all know you're not going to become a medical doctor in a month, and unfortunately it is the same with architecture and interior design. It is the same that way, and not a lot of people know that, and there does need to be more regulations brought in, but that's a whole other conversation for another day. So focus on just what you can do in the meantime with research and learning on your own. Again, there's so many tutorials out there on YouTube for software. I think a good one to start off with is Google SketchUp and AutoCAD. You can get ones like that and just practice your own computer skills, and your drawing skills are also really important. So things like that you can practice. And I also asked you guys if you have any personal questions for me, because I realized that I've never really gone into detail about anything other than design on here. So one of you asked me, do you have any pets and any suggestions on how to elevate pet-friendly homes? So unfortunately, we don't have any pets anymore. We had cats. One passed away a while ago and our other cat passed away at the end of 2019. So sadly, we don't have any pets right now, but definitely want to have more in the future, 100%. My biggest thing with pet-friendly homes is look out for plants, because so many plants for pets are poisonous, and yeah, it's a big problem basically. So lots of the time I recommend artificial plants, but if that's really not your thing, which I can understand, just look online to see which plants are safe. And in terms of interiors, I love these dog washing stations or personalized built-in trays. I just think that they're really chic. Although having said that, and having had pets, I know that pets sometimes don't really want to use certain areas. Like our cat, I remember one time we bought the most plush, beautiful cat bed, and did they like it or use it? No, not at all. They decided it was a pile of. So you can put all these things in place for your pets, but it's up to you, and you know what they like and what they don't like, or what they will use and what they won't. So know that before you spend lots in putting in a dog washing station or something like that. If you have any more questions for me, whether that's design or personal, I'll be happy to answer them in the comment section after the video. I know this was a very informal, chatty kind of video from me. Let me know if you want more Q&As and things like this. And yeah, I'm hoping that we'll do more design videos really soon. Please bear with us in the meantime. I've got honestly about 100 ideas or more on the idea board. It's just a case of finding the time to actually do them. And as usual, please leave me a like or an emoji down below, because that really does help us to grow the channel. And that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one, whenever that might be. Bye.